So far, in a very simple term, what Mr. Pradeep explained you, Basel 1, 2, 3, why it came, when it came, and after coming, what actually it is doing to us, or all these banks. And then he also explained you what are the different types of assets. So all assets are not good assets. All assets are not bad assets. All bad assets are not equally bad assets. So you have many category. So something which is coming perfectly fine means within 90 days, it is a standard. Beyond 90 days, you start making a differentiation. Even within 90 days, you make a differentiation. We will come to that in part 3 of the session. So as he explained you, first 90 days is standard. After that, it is substandard, 1 year in substandard. After that, it will again slip. It will go to doubtful 1, doubtful 2, 3, and then finally it will become loss asset. So can a standard go directly from standard to doubtful 1 or loss? Yes, it can go. Can it go to doubtful 2? Yes, it can go. So this is how asset will move. So if you can just take the piece of paper which is there in your hand, go to the part 1, point number 2, and here point number 2 tells you detailed discussion on prudential norms. So income recognition, we are yet to come. Asset classification is the part what we were talking about so far. So and there is a specific circular on this. Circular is merely 138 page. It's not that big once you start reading it. So now we are there on the provisioning side. I'll move little fast, and so that you can see the chart that is already there. That is the whole purpose of bringing this paper and handing it over to you. So in the provisioning thing, so provision means is why do we need a provision first of all? So just think there is a bank where a bank is open. They have taken 100 rupees of deposit, and they start lending to people. Tomorrow, one of them to whom they had lent 10 rupees says they have no money to pay. In that situation, what will happen? In that situation, the creditor, the depositor is going to come and ask you, so you need some skin in the game. So what is that skin in the game? If you have opened a bank, if you have taken 100 rupees of credits from people, which is deposits they have made with you, and then you also need to put some money from your side, which is just take an example of 10 rupee. Now your balance sheet is 110 rupee. Now you go and lend from this 110 rupee, even if one guy is coming and not paying to you, then also you are better off. You have money to pay back. Now that we know all assets are not equally bad, so this is why this is what is the called capital adequacy thing. So that is why you need capital, and capital adequacy is the next topic that we are going to come. But before that, let us say provisioning. What is provisioning is, because you think any asset can go bad. In that case, you have to think, okay, if I'm giving a standard loan, whenever I give a loan, whether that guy is going to pay me or not, certain percentage of that I have to keep aside, even if that loan is standard. So that type of provisioning is called provisioning against standard asset. So I'll just show you some of the rates here. So if you are giving credit to a farm, then 0.25, lend 100 rupee, 25 paisa you have to keep aside as a provisioning for a standard loan. Real estate, give 100 rupee loan, keep 1 rupee aside, standard provisioning. And then if that real estate has something to do with the 1%. This is for a standard asset. So any loan, the time you give, even when it is standard, you have to keep some provisioning. That provisioning is called provision against standard loans. Those loans are different for different loans. Yeah, please.
25 paisa.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. So 25 paisa, 1 rupee. If that real estate has something to do with housing sector, then 0.75% of that. If any other loan which is not here, so then 40 paisa you have to keep. So if I am going to bank and taking a loan, 40 paisa they have to keep aside. Keep one thing in mind, these are rules, regulation, and you know there are no less if and buts in rules and regulations. So we are predicting, projecting one picture here. There will be always twist to it, and for that you need to read the regulation. So now let's come to the,
Yeah, go back. Now, this particular thing, it's only after we started having a real estate bubble started coming in, the brought in the 1% and 0.75%. Otherwise, when it started, it was also coming under 0.40%. It's only when they find that a certain sector is going risky, so though it is a standard asset, they will ask you to make a higher provision for it. It's not that it's been coming out throughout. As let's say tomorrow the real estate thing comes, rectifies itself. There are a lot of problems with that. Then it will come down to 40. Tomorrow some other sector may come in. Then they will add it there, right?
So now let's move to what is standard restructured. We just discussed that standard restructured is between standard and then the substandard one or NPA category. So these are the loans where some leniency have been given, and there is always some more possibilities these loans going bad than compared to standard. So for these loans, these are the rates: 3.5, 4.25. Earlier used to be, so till 13, 14, they had to keep 3.5% aside for 100 rupees of given the loan, then 4.25, and now any loan which is substandard, which is standard restructured, a bank has to keep 5 rupee aside provisioning. Provisioning, yeah, please.
Spread over 4 means every quarter we have to give 1.25%.
So what happens is when RBI decided to come with this provisioning thing, so they don't come in a day and they give in a phased manner, so they were easing in slowly, but now rates exist at 5% for any, and we will go to these numbers, that what are these numbers for different banks. And so now let's come to these three categories: substandard, doubtful, and loss asset. We have one table here. I'll give you an example. So there was a road project, for example. Road was supposed to come. Compliance issues were there. They were supposed to get clearance from so many departments. They didn't get those clearance. Because of that, road is not coming there. Toll is not there. They are not earning money. They are not paying you back. So now a bank is seeing whose problem it is. If it has something to do with a genuine reason, a government official, or some environmental issue, so they'll say, okay, you are not a bad guy, it's just that things are not working out for you, so let's take 2 more year time. Next 2 years, you pay me only interest, you don't pay me EMIs, and I'll not call this loan standard. So there was, in 2008, this practice started happening, and after that, any loan, there are given circumstances, if they are following, they are falling in that criteria, then that process will be called restructuring. And then after restructuring, if it is a standard loan, it will become standard restructured. If it is already an NPA loan, then it will become NPA restructured. And there are possibilities when a standard restructured loan may also not pay. Just think 2 years are over, still that road is not there, still clearance is not there, then they'll fall to NPA restructured. Restructured is restructured. If it is a standard or NPA, that we have to see. And then we come back to, we come to these three categories: substandard, doubtful, and loss asset. So as we know, so this is a table, we will be sending you this complete PPT. So substandard, a loan, again you differentiate whether it is secured loan, unsecured loan. So if it is a secured substandard loan, then up to 6 months you have to keep 15% money aside. If it is, and after that for a secured loan, so 1 year you have to keep 15 rupee aside. You given a loan of 100 rupee, loan didn't come, 90 days, fall into substandard. It is a secured loan, home loan, you have to keep 15 rupee aside for that 100 rupee of loan. From where that 15 rupee will come, it has to come from your capital. Which capital it has to be, we will see. Now, substandard, unsecured. So first 6 months, 25% if it is for infra, 20% if it is, other than infra, 20% for infra for logical reason, because there is always one asset on the ground. Doubtful one, which is the second year of substandard, then you have to keep 25% money aside for secured, 100% for unsecured, doubtful 2, 40%, doubtful 3, 100% money. Loss anyways 100%. So now we'll move forward. Yeah.
Just go back. Now, please pay your attention here. It says 25% of the secured portion. That means even though you have a security of X, you still have to maintain this. And on the unsecured portion, it is 100%.
Yeah. So
That is the basic thing. That's where the more capital will be required.
But 15,
And
15 and 25 are out of 70, 25.
What is 70,
So
25?
first year you written off 30%.
No, no, what happens is, as the classification comes down, the percentage increases.
Yeah.
You have already made a provision on that particular asset earlier. You are only going to make a marginal addition to it.
Let's say 100 rupees, 30 gone 70. Now I have to take 25 or 70 or 20.
No, I'll give you a, now 100 rupees has been given, it's become a substandard. Let's take it as
Secured.
0.4%, you have taken it when it is standard, then it became substandard. As substandard, whatever is the thing that comes up there, up to 6 months, 15%. That means I have some amount, 15% is worked out. I already have this, I only make the margin.
14 points.
Yeah, let's say it slips to doubtful 1, then I, till that part it was overall, now it gets split into secured portion, unsecured, and accordingly you do. So you will be having some provision throughout on a loan account as a provision, whether it is standard or doubtful.
So-
The more it becomes a doubtful or a loss, the more provisioning keeps happening. Now what has happened now in the last third and fourth quarter of Bank of Baroda is that. That is one. Second, most of the things they were showing it as restructured.
Down the line.
Now they said nothing doing. You are it was basically window dressing the balance sheet that was happening. So that's where this.
They just jumped at the last stage.
Something that becomes doubtful in year 2 will actually end up making you a loss asset, right? So 100% you are saying unsecured.
Yeah, that straight away from standard it will come down to a loss. Only thing is it has to, because of the periods mentioned, it has to go through in a phased manner. From once you classify a substandard to standard to substandard, then you can straight away go into loss. It need not go through down.
So when they did it in the third quarter, they said you have written off everything. But again
Yes.
in fourth quarter, they continue to do the same.
That was because there were a lot of loans which were shown as restructured.
It was not done in the third quarter.
Yeah. That they said we are going to look at it very seriously. That's when almost, if you look at it, most of the banks got into this problem of last quarter losses.
Punjab National Bank.
Everyone they had window dressed it. Whatever was window dressed, now it got undressed.
guys, we will come to a specific company's example and what happened to which
Yeah,
bank
we
you
look at
ask,
the
and we will
banks
go
also.
there. So now, before we move from this place,
Because I have one
Yeah,
question
please.
done. So, asset which is not paid, is interest from 90 days is NPA.
Yeah.
It has to remain in NPA for 12 months for it to become substandard.
yeah, so
So
12.
what happens in that interim 12 months?
It will remain in substandard. So now let me give an example here. So coming back to our original example, you have a bank, 100 rupee, capital of 10 rupee, 100 rupee loans were given, 10 rupees were or 25 rupees were parked in SLR, CRR and other stuff. 100 rupees loans are given. So now think, Niti's loan has fallen to doubtful, what we had given to her, and the complete loan is unsecured loan. She has taken for credit card and now she is not paying it us back. So now just think, if it is 5 rupees loan, 100% I am supposed to write off. I have to make a provisioning for that. What does actually it mean? My balance sheet size is 110, 100 plus 10, 5 rupee she is not giving me. So I had earlier capital of 10 rupee. Out of my capital of 10 rupee, I'll take 5 rupees out, will park it in a different bucket, will say this is provisioning against Niti's bad loan. Now my new capital is only 5 rupees. One more guy is going bad, then again I have to keep aside that 5 rupee. Again provisioning is done, but I have no capital. RBI says you have to have 9% capital. If I don't have a capital, RBI will come and take my bank and they will say, because that is how they have to do. So in that case, that is why it is called that you need capital. And what are the different circumstances in you need capital, we will come to that. So this is where unsecured and secured differentiation, but provisioning means only that much. You have to take out from your capital, keep aside, no more it will be your capital, it will be provisions against any bad loan. If it is for a standard loan, it will be provision against a standard loan.
That's basically to ensure the depositors get back the money if we make the product.
Yeah, so bank system should not collapse. When it will not collapse? Because if the money what you owe as a bank to depositors is less than or nearer to the actual money, you are very, very vulnerable to any sort of jerks. So in that case, bank is saying this much capital you must have. So now we'll come to income recognition policy of a bank. So for a bank, here only one or two things I'll try to highlight. For bank, it's all accrual based. So I have given you a loan, whether my EMI is started or not, whatever interest is accruing. Sir, correct me if anywhere I'm going wrong. So that is on accrual basis it will happen. But the time EMI is started and then you're not paying is a problem. So if one loan of a person, any entity with SBI goes bad, all other loans borrowed by that particular entity goes bad. So Niti has 5 loans with me. One she didn't pay, all 5 will be recognized as NPA. That is called record of recovery at the borrower level, not at the account level. So now let's come to what are the important ratios. Having seen the NPA, what are the important NPA ratios? So one is called gross advances, gross NPA, net advances, and net NPA. Gross NPA, net NPA, you keep reading in all news that it is going up. So this is how it is calculated. I'll just take you through this table. So standard advances, we all know. In our original example, if 110 rupee we have balance sheet, 100 rupee loan given, all are standard, then standard advances. Gross NPA, if some 5 rupee as loan has not come, gross NPA. So gross advances is 100 plus 5 is 105. Then we have to deduct few things here on total number 5 if you see. So these are the deductions, which is typically many types of provisions what you keep doing, right? So this is if it is doubtful 1, doubtful 2, and other than that. So these are the things what you need to deduct, and then you come to the net advances. So 110 rupee the original balance sheet size, and then we are having all these provisions. So we come to net advances, and then we come to the net NPA. For example, if 5 rupees loan went bad, I have provided 3 rupee against that because it is there in doubtful 1 or 2 category. In that case, I'll say my net net NPA is merely 2 rupees. To be very, very accurate, you have to deduct all. Currently, I'm just saying provision held in case of NPA. So other categories you have to see. That is how you move to the net NPA. So just take an example, a bank having 10% gross NPA and 0% net NPA. What is your problem? It's provided everything. So you can't say that bank is stressed. You can say it's a useless bank because as a shareholder, I don't make any money. Whatever the money make, they put all the provisions. I don't earn any ROE. As a shareholder, it may be a bad bank, but as a depositor, you absolutely have no problem because your bank remains very, very healthy.
So then if that ratio is narrowed, does it mean something else?
So,
in the sense, you say it's fully provided for, right?
Yeah.
If the net advance is not so much as it should be, then the depositor's money is at risk.
So we have to see that, yeah, very good question, Jayesh. So now your concern is how much net NPA or gross NPA can be a comfortable number, and beyond what number we are in real trouble. We'll see to that number. We have specific slides on that. So, here I have one table just to show you that, and then only we can move forward. So any questions meanwhile till the time it is starting related to whatever portion that we have covered so far? Yeah, please.
Recently, I just heard one of the interviews by banking managers. So they were referring to that they have made 60% of the provisions or 50% of the provisions. These are the percentage they are talking about.
Yeah.
Now, what exactly are these percentages? Is this that they have to make, let's say, 100 rupees as provision and they have made 50% of it?
No.
Do you?
It is like this in a very loose term, because there are few other things here. So if you have 10 rupees of gross bad loans, because all are not under loss category, so you are supposed to make provisioning at a different level. And by doing that, if you have just provisioned 5 rupees for that 10 rupees loan bad bucket, it means 50 rupee you have provided. So rest 50 is not provided, which is a typical gap between gross NPA and net NPA. But when we actually calculate, so this is called provisioning coverage ratio. So it is not going to be as simple as this. There are 2, 3, 4 other line items here that you need to take care of. So now let's take a real time example. So this is Axis Bank, 31st December 2005, 2015. Amount of NPA, total NPA at that point in time in 5,721 crore rupee. Out of that, substandard is 1230, and then you have doubtful 1, 2, doubtful 3, very less money, doubtful, which is for loss, they have 1,000 crore in the loss category. So net NPA only 25,000 crore. It means, Avneet, that out of 57, they have provided 32,000 crore, and what they are left with is 25,000 crore of bad assets. You can see that number will match here, and net NPA ratio, so gross NPA ratio is 1.77. You take out the provisioning part, net NPA is 0.8. Movement of NPAs. So when they started on 1st April 2015, this was the number 4,100 crore. They added 5,800 crore in 1 year, and then they reduced 4,257 crores. How did they reduce? A very good topic is suggested by Dilshad. We will come to that what are the mechanism you reduce your NPAs. And then the closing balance December end was 5,700 crore. So this is how a typical presentation bank will be giving you under Basel III regulatory disclosure. This is available for all the banks. So now let's move forward to Basel III. Let me see, I'm 7:17, so another 10 minutes we'll try to come out of it. So Basel III we have already discussed. So now there are 3 pillars, pillar 1, 2, 3. We keep listening about Ashoka pillar, and there are 3 more pillars here, 1, 2, 3, and these are very, very confusing many a time. We just find it very, very tough to relate what is Basel, first of all, a tough name, and then pillar 1, 2, 3. So pillar 1 only talks about how much capital you should be having. Pillar 2 is all about, do you need additional provisioning? Pillar 3 is all about disclosure. So what you saw in the previous slide, Axis Bank has given the number, in which format they should be giving, what actually they should be telling. There has to be an uniformity there. And that is told under pillar 3 of the Basel norms, what you have to tell, how you have to tell, and it is not for one bank, not only in India, globally G20 countries have agreed to it that we will be giving this information with some exception to Europe, that this is the format. So you can find out what is the actual thing going on there. So here what we have mentioned is pillar 1, risk sensitive calculation of capital requirement. Something which is more risky, you have to keep more capital. Something which is less risky, you keep less capital. Even if you are investing in a bond, then also you have to keep money aside. You are investing in JSPL, you have to keep more money aside. You are investing in GSEC, you have to keep less money aside. Yes, Saurabh?
Operational risk, what kind of capital?
We will come to that. We have a very good table. So Basel III has taken under the pillar 3 all sorts of questions that comes to our mind at a very, very high transparent level. So pillar 2 is, again, do you need any, banks are expected to operate at a level well above the minimum requirement. Just now we were discussing that 110 rupees loan to guys went bad, now we are 100 rupees, we have no capital. It means we have to think it before. We have to keep something extra fat, so even after some sort of beating, we remain in the banking business. And now let's come to the market discipline, which is all about disclosure requirements. So now let's come to the risk weighted average assets, what we have been discussing, asset, investment as well as loan. Riskier loan, I'll say, okay, this loan is very, very risky. Let's give 150% weightage to this. So if you are giving a loan to Jayant, this 100% is not enough, I think, risk weight. Let us give it 150% risk weight. You are giving loan to Saurabh, let's give only 50% risk weight to that. So that level also. Now, one thing we have seen, provisioning, bad loan, higher provision, good loan, lower provision, bad loan, higher risk weightage, but more possibility of falling in NPA category, even higher weightage, lesser risk weightage. So you need not be surprised that most of the banks, if their net loss, net advances given is 5 lakh crore, their risk weighted asset size will be somewhere 3.5 or 4 lakh crore, because they will be lending a lot of money where investments or loans are carrying less than 100% risk weightage. So now, so this is a typical corporate loan. So it depends on the what I was saying, the riskiness. So if it is AAA rated, then only 20% risk weight. You lend 1 crore rupee, 20% is the risk weightage. So merely 20 lakh rupee will be considered as a loan. We know 1% if you are lending to corporate, or 0.54%. So 20 lakh into 0.4% is the money you have to have a capital for lending such type of corporate. If you are lending to a corporate which is double B and below, 1 crore lend, government will say, my Hindi teacher used to say, if you don't do homework, marunga 10, ginunga 2. So it's something like that, right? So you give a loan of 1 crore rupee, I'll tell, okay, this is 1.5 crore, and then you have to keep. Suppose that loan goes bad, then you again have to, more provisioning also you have to do. So now let us see what is the short-term loan. So that is something when you are giving a long-term loan. When you are giving a short-term loan, then you have to see the short-term rating. Short-term ratings can be, different rating agencies are there, and so if it is the A1 plus, which is the highest category, then merely 20. If it is unrated, 100. Even in unrated cases, bank has to have their internal rating thing. So now, what we are seeing under Basel norms, pillar 1, where you have to keep the provisioning, you have to have the capital for lending the money. So for credit risk, also you have to have capital. Somebody may not be returning the money. Market risk can be when you are having an investment portfolio. We know that interest rate risk remain there, duration and all that, rates going up, down, and you lose money over there. So for that market risk also you need to have money. And then foreign exchange also comes under market risk, and then you come to the operational risk. Operational risk, Uday, very well defined. So now let us see how actually Axis Bank had to keep. So these are the numbers. Next time when you are going and downloading Basel III disclosure, you will be very, very familiar to it. So credit risk, they had to keep 29,121 crore rupee just to deal with credit risk. Credit risk may be loan, may be investment, but they have to keep it. Market risk, merely 3,000 crore. When I say mere, compared to the credit risk part. And then the operational risk, again 3,000 crore number. So even under the market risk, you can see how much for interest rate, how much for a foreign, how much for equity. They have to keep the thing. So these are the requirements. They want to keep more than this, please keep it. Don't want to keep this, we will see when you are falling. So this is what RBI says. All banks, norms are similar. Different countries, again, rates are same. Yeah.
Now, if you look at Saurabh, your question, operational risk, what's the risk weight and how it is? You know, there are 3 approaches to it as per Basel norms. What approach the banks or the supervisory bank has the, it can allow you to take any of the 3 approaches. But which approach have you taken has to be mentioned out there. Now, if you look at it, it says basic indicator approach. There are 2 other approaches which you can look at. Now, these approaches basically have certain formulas. They have certain formulas, which has been formulated by the BCBS itself. So, when you are looking at operational risk, you have to go on one of the 3 approaches. Each has a different formula. You also have the Reserve Bank has the right to tell the banks You can approach, use any of the things, but you need to tell us which is the one.
And you need to make a consistency over there. If
And
you are
you can't
using a
change it.
standardized approach, you have to
Next,
keep
it's
following
almost
the
like
same
your
approach.
inventory valuation. If you are going on FIFO or LIFO, you continue for a long period on that. Same is the thing with this. You cannot change your approach without the prior approval of the Reserve Bank.
My question was,
Yeah.
it's
How it is
possible-
calculated.
Yeah, because it's possible to quantify. the
Yeah, so
risk.
that is
There is a way in which it is getting quantified.
so it is there part of that master circular. So in that there are 3 approaches under which approach how you have to calculate,
The
that is there.
quantification is also
And
given in that circular. Only thing is we need to look at the circular.
yeah.
You will get that.
And
Is
then
that-
sorry.
Yeah, please.
So now Mr. Pradeep has already explained type of capital tier 1, tier 2 under that. So tier 1 which can absorb more and more losses, mainly share capital. Tier 2, if required, it has to absorb the losses. If just think if loss absorb capacity is not there with any capital, what will happen? If bank is not having capital, then it will go bank itself will go bankrupt, right? So now in tier 1, again you have 2 type of capital, something which is called common equity, tier 1, and then something called additional tier 1. So common equity is common shares, stock surplus, reserves, capital reserves, profits available there. Additional tier 2 is not, so to say, share capital, but beyond that you can have perpetual bonds with, and there are main features called a table here which you can find under the Basel III disclosure, that those are the attributes these. So that is why you see qualifying. So if something is qualifying, if those debt papers are having those features, then it will qualify for additional tier 1. If it is not there, then it will qualify as additional tier 2. One thing you need to see, if required, all these things can be converted to equity. So 110 rupee balance sheet, coming back to the original point, 5 rupee capital you have taken as a bond, which can be converted to equity if your bank is not going good. If it is falling apart, then you can convert that 5 rupee debt into equity. Now at least your bank is having 105 rupee equity rather than going bankrupt. Debt capital and other instruments. So there is a huge list here. So debt capital, yeah. So this debt capital has features. Features are, so loss absorbance is there. So if required, it can be written down, it can be converted to equity. So it is not 100 rupee given invested in that debt, 100 rupee not paid, bank is going to bankrupt. A bank will convert that in equity, and equity holder cannot say that, okay, I will not participate in the loss of the bank. So this is how on the features something gets qualified as tier 1, CET1, additional tier 1, and then the tier 2. What are those features? It is there in the regulation and we can always discuss it. So now let us see how actually, so as a depositor, which capital do you like most? You would like your bank to have 25% tier 1, right? So even if all things are going bad, at least you are sure that your money is not going to go bad. What a bank would like to have? Bank would like to have the least, because required rate of return will be higher on CET, common equity. It will be lesser on other subordinated thing. Bank would like to have more and more tier 2, not the CET1. What regulator would like to have, they have to see, they are also no less than a depositor, so they also would like to you to have common equity, and this is how it is calculated. So risk weight for RWA. So risk weighted will be you have to calculate it. How you calculate for credit risk, how much is risk weighted asset for market and then operation, and this is how you see how much capital you have. If you have this risk comes to 90 rupee, common equity that you have is 10 rupee, so it means your common equity is 10 divided by 90, which is 11.some%. You will say my tier 1 is 11%. So now let us see what is that RBI says. RBI says minimum common equity tier 1. So CET1, you have to have 5.5% of your risk weighted asset. 100 rupee risk weighted, 5.5 rupee you have to have CET1 tier 1. capital conversion buffer is 2.5 you have to have, conservation buffer, and then minimum, so minimum equity you have to have 8% in CET1. Then additional tier 1, what you have to have, so beyond this 7%, 8%, you have to have 1.5%. If you wish to keep all 7% as CET1, no problem. But if you don't want to do that, you have to keep 5.5 and then you have to keep 1.5, so which is the 7% number. And then you can keep 2% as tier 2 capital. So from bank side, from the RBI side, you have to have 9% capital for your RWA, which is risk weighted asset balance. 9 rupee they are saying, okay, 9 rupee and plus 2.5 rupee as capital as a buffer. So total 11.5. Out of 11.5, you have to have 8 rupee in CET1 stock. 1.5 you wish additional tier 1 and then 2%. So now let's move from here. You keep listening that, okay, recapitalization is required. So what is this recapitalization all about? So we'll come to that. So Basel norms were applied in India by 2013. So bank again told, RBI told, okay, not on day one you have been dealing at 5-6% capital. On a day I cannot tell, okay, keep 11.5% capital. So what they told, this is how you have to ease in the system. Whenever you read a news article by 2019, public sector banks need 7 lakh rupee, 3 lakh rupee or of capital government has to put. Why 2019? It is coming from here. So 2000, so you can see this 5.5 is there. There you don't have any rebate. Minimum tier 1 capital 7%, which is there. Again, no rebates from here on. Total capital. So this only capital conservation buffer, they are saying that you have to, this 2.5 you have to have by. So just think total 100 crore is the risk weighted asset of the banking sector. 100 crore, 2.5%, this you have to move in. You have to bring in, which is 2.5 crore rupee capital, additional capital has come into the system, and this is why it is called transitional arrangement scheduled commercial bank. This is how they have to have. So this is the whole story about recapitalization, one part of the story, not the complete story. So let us see what is the actual Axis Bank's number as of now. So their common equity consolidated level is tier 1 10.9%. They don't have anything in additional tier 1, that is why these numbers are same, and then totals is 14.05. so you can say 14.05 minus this number, which is 3.16%, is nothing but their tier 2 capital. So now we have a very good video. I mean, we have a lot of content, and we will give all that to you. We will not leave in between. So now we have so before we go to the audio clip, we have one audio clip. Just go back, we discussed asset classification, we discussed capital adequacy, we also discussed how much provisioning is required. Then we also told you one bad loan, all loans will be bad. Just think, you are under doubtful 1 category. If I give you one new loan of 1 rupee, it means again that is also going to the bad category only. Do I lend to this guy? I have no money to lend at 0.4, 0.5%, 0.5%.
Standard, how do I lend money to somebody? If I lend, I have to keep 25 rupees aside. If I lend to that guy, if I don't lend to that guy, if there was a road, I have given 100 crore rupee, or a steel plant, I have given 1,000 crore rupees to them. If I don't lend to them, if they don't have working capital, will their plant ever come up? If it
doesn't come up, will I get my 100 rupees, or I have to write complete thing? So I had this question. Dear, can you please, if I play an audio, it will work? So in that case, what will happen to these loans? Who is going to lend these guys? If you don't lend, complete write-off. So we had this question and we asked, to whom you want to ask this question directly? I mean, any thought? Venu, Given the opportunity, this is the problem, banks are suffering. To whom is the guy you want to ask this question? You will be happy. Huh? RQ? Okay, let's ask him.